Looking at simple interest here, simple interest problems. Before we get into it too much, we should understand that interest is money charged for using other people's money. And usually when you borrow money, the borrower pays interest and the lender receives that interest. Now, we have some things when we're talking about interest problems. We have something called the principal, which in generality, or to generalize, this is usually the money loaned or borrowed or a face amount. Now we usually see an interest rate also applied when we have borrowing money or interest problems. And interest is always stated in a yearly rate. So we have APR, which is annual percentage rate. Write this right. And this is always stated by a year. So when we're looking at doing this, especially for simple interest, when we're just compounding on the original principal or just compounding on what we originally started with, this is simple interest. And for simple interest, we have actually a formula we can use. Simple interest. The formula is, or I shouldn't say that. I should say simple interest is equal to the principal times the rate times the time. And when we talk about time, we're always looking at this in essence in a year in some way, shape, or form. So if we know the principal, we know the interest rate, we know how long we have that principal, then we can calculate the interest on it. So let's say, for example, we want to find the simple interest. Let's say find the simple interest after 3 years. On, let's say, $500 with an APR of 8%. So what this means is we're getting an 8% return on our money every year. We want to know what we're going to have after 3 years. Well, we use simple interest, the principal times the rate times the time. We know the principal. The principal here is $500. The rate is 8%, decimal equivalent, we need to use 0.08. And the time, 3 years, well, the APR is in a yearly rate, so if we have full years here, we can just do it by the number of years. So principal times rate times time, if we take this, 500 times 0.08 times 3. And what we'll get is, let's see, 500 times 0.08 is 40 times 3 is 120. So after 3 years, this $500 will accumulate $120 in interest at 8%. Now, once we know that, we have what's called a maturity value. And a maturity value, when we look at this, is equal to principal plus interest. So after 3 years, we said this loan where we had a simple interest, 3 years of $500 APR of 8%. We said, what's the maturity value of that? Well, it'll be the $500 we have in principal plus the 120 in interest. So the maturity value would be $620 in that case. So simple interest really isn't all that bad. We'll look at another different example here. And remember, interest is equal to principal times rate times time. And we'll do one here with, we don't have a full year. Let's say borrowed, doesn't matter who, but someone borrowed $2,500 at, let's say, 5%, simple interest for 11 months. There's a different thing. So we know our principal is $2,500. Okay. So interest that we get is equal to the $2,500 multiplied by the rate. The rate is 5%, so 0.05 is our decimal equivalent. And then if we look at our rate, or our time, I should say, time. Well, this is for 11 months. And we got to think, well, 11 months, how many months are in a year? Because percentages, interest rate is based on a year. Well, there's 12 months, so we would have 11 over 12 here. So basically, we're saying essentially 2,500 times 0.05 times 11. All this is divided by 12. So if we put this in, 2,500 times 0.05 times 11 divided by 12, we get 114.58. So that is the interest for 11 months if you're borrowing 2,500 at 5%. So if this person borrowed 2,500 at 5% simple interest for 11 months, at the end of that 11 months, they'd have to pay back 2,500 plus the 114.58 in interest, meaning they have to pay back 26.14. What was that? 58. And that's the maturity value. So this is how we calculate simple interest. Hope this helps a little bit. I will see you in the next video. Bye.